Welcome to the Super Fantastic Exchange, where we have inspired conversations with inspiring leaders. And I can't wait to share with you our special guest that we have today, which is none other than Smart Chick Megan Orser. Y'all give it up for Smart Chick Megan Orser. That's a mouthful. I love it. That's so cool.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. And thank you to your audience for having me today.
Oh, so glad to have you. I've been following you on LinkedIn as kind of a fan and watching the things that you post is very inspiring. You're free to share knowledge. And I'm like, I gotta connect with her because she's just one of those inspiring people because I love to see the things that you post. And I know you've got this genuine, kind of generous approach where you're sharing knowledge and you have all the things that you do behind the scenes as well. But I thought that was just you got to be on the show. And so I'm so glad that you're here with us today. So Megan, I want to give you a chance to share a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
So, well, thank you. And I'm glad that that is coming through because that's my mission is really to share. I think that's the best way that you can connect. And I think that's kind of how I look at building community is the more that I can be a resource or a sounding board. I mean, obviously that's going to help maybe position me as a thought leader. So, people will come to me if they've got questions, but I'm very curious. I love to learn. And so the more I learn, I quickly want to share that with the network so that they can learn from it too. And a lot of the times I think from our education, it's come from that thought process of how can we maybe find some friction points, make it easier for people to enjoy their jobs, enjoy this industry again, and find some efficiencies and just, cut the noise essentially. So how did I get started? Well, my mom, Dawn Ford, is an industry legend in my mind. She started back in the late 70s in college. She's one of the only people I know that went to school to actually be a property manager and got her degree in property management. She got her CPM early on when I was little. Single mom I lived on site in Oklahoma City is where I was born. She cut her teeth in property management. She owned her own property management company. I followed her to Colorado Springs, which is where I spent most of my childhood growing up. And she managed commercial space, shopping centers, HOAs, single family homes. She managed for military folks because Colorado Springs is a big military city. And when I was just getting into high school, she had an opportunity to go work back on site in multifamily. But the opportunity that she had was to work with the attorney that was one of the attorneys that drafted the low income housing tax credit program. And so she got to run the first ever tax credit new lease up in Colorado Springs. And it went really, really well. And I think that's really, even though I had been exposed to the industry my whole life, I had been on tours with her on the weekends and cleaned apartments and done all the things. That's really when I got to work on site. And I started as a cleaning person. I was 16 in high school. And I went in and leased my first apartment just because I wanted to help somebody. I saw them standing there waiting to be helped. And that's really where it stuck. I didn't know that I would be in multifamily. In fact, I tried to go into advertising and making commercials. That's what I went to college for. But when I got to work on site again through college, I worked on many different sites and projects. And I loved that I got to be a part of a project from beginning to end. And when in advertising, you don't really get to see if anything ever comes to fruition. You might work on a very small part, but you never get to see the success. And that's not true in property management. I think that opened up a door to show that if you like marketing, if you like education, if you like, asset management, there is really a place for everybody in property management. And I graduated college and I never ever looked back. I just stayed and I worked with several different property management firms. I was a troubleshooter, definitely leaned into education. And then when my mom started Smart Apartment Solutions in 2008, I worked there part-time while I worked with different operators. And then in 2012, I made the leap and I went full-time with her, running the education department, marketing department. And then in 2014, we opened Smart Moves, which is our management company. And I love to dabble in it all. I look at our management company as our lab to kind of test some of our educational theories and practices. And, our smart apartment solutions, that's where we do support staff, we do training, we do education, lease up, anything that's really going to help the on-site team or the owner hit their occupancy goals, help them enjoy their job better. I want to be right in the mix of that.
Oh my gosh, what a story. And I love that your mom kind of started this legacy or started this example, if you will, and then you realized and recognized, man, what a great opportunity to be in this industry, in this field, because there are so many incredible aspects to it where you get to kind of see the whole big picture and you're involved in all parts of it, some of it or all of it, but you still get to see the whole big picture of it. And what a neat story that you have, Megan, and I love that you've shared that with us. And but before we get started, and I know and I love what you've shared, I have to ask the origin or the etymology of Smart Chick Megan Orser. Where does that come from?
Yeah. So when my mom Dawn Ford was deciding to start Smart Apartment Solutions, she was working with many names, and Smart kept coming back up. And we loved Smart because you could put it with everything, you know, smart solutions and just so fun. Who doesn't want to be smart? But because I felt like I was younger and still kind of earning my respect in the industry, I didn't quite feel like a smart girl. She went by Smart Girl. All of the other smart team members either went by Smart Guy or Smart Girl. So I picked Chick. And it just kind of was a tongue-in-cheek fun thing, but it stuck. And it was at the time, it was 2009 at that time. So Twitter was, you know, getting pretty popular. And so I needed a handle and something that I could kind of stick out. And people really just loved it. It definitely has been a conversation starter just like this. And so I couldn't picture myself dropping it now. And even as I have started to build out smartchickmegan.com, which is where we're leaning a little bit more into some on-demand education or some coaching, it's just been a natural progression with social media and mixing it and carving my place out in the industry, I guess.
I love that. And what that shows for me is smart chick is a word or phrase, if you will, and that's what you've chosen, and that's who you've chosen to be. And people recognize you as that. So and I myself have a word, if you know, super fantastic. And if you choose, and I believe if you choose a word, then that becomes kind of your who. That becomes who your almost your accountability to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be super fantastic. Megan's going to be the smart chick. So there's that accountability for yourself to kind of live up to that word. And then two, the people that encounter you, they're like, what is the expectation I'm going to have when I meet smart chick Megan Orser? It's going to be amazing because she's the smart chick Megan Orser. So I love that you have that word, and I love that you own it, and I love that you bring it with you wherever you go. So Megan, I loved it. Like I mentioned, I love to connect with inspiring leaders. And like I said, you are definitely one of those inspiring leaders. And I love to peek behind the curtain and see what inspires an inspiring leader. So I reached out to you and I asked you, hey, Megan, what inspires you? You sent back two wonderful topics that I want to kind of dig into a little bit. And the first one, this is an interesting one. You wrote the independent rental owner community, and you called them underdogs. But they inspired you to kind of jump in and do a lot more than what you may have done without that kind of inspiration. So share with us what the independent rental owner community is, and what does it mean? Why do they inspire you?
Well, thank you so much, Gary, for giving us a platform. You know, even talking about it, I could feel goosebumps because that's how inspired by them that I am. And you know, it started for me back in 2015. I was in the process of earning a leadership lyceum for our local state of Michigan apartment association. And it's a program where you can go to national conferences and see board meetings and see if you're, you know, maybe a fit for leadership and you want to go further. And I had the opportunity as one of my homework assignments to go to the Assembly of Delegates, which met in San Antonio that year. And because I am involved in Detroit, but also in the Ann Arbor market. The Ann Arbor market is pretty full, actually. About 80% of its membership or makeup of rental housing there are what we would consider an independent rental owner. And if you don't know what an independent rental owner is, it's either somebody who owns their own property, or maybe works very closely with the owner, that the owner is very involved in the day-to-day processes. And typically we say we're like the 1 to 10 doors or below. Although there are some independent rental owners that maybe started with 1 unit and now have 10,000 units, and they still identify as an independent rental owner because they're still actively involved in the daily operation. So there's a little bit of a identity crisis there. But anyways, I sat in the committee and watched the governance. And at that time, the chair of the committee, out of Texas, he's now a judge, I believe, was a former city council member. So just very involved in his community. And I just saw such a passion from that community of wanting to just give back, really reach their arms around their community and make it a great place to live and thrive. And I had heard stigmas and stereotypes about the IRO community, that they were the slumlords, they maybe were the less educated ones. And it just kind of stuck with me and bugged me. And so I joined the committee. I signed up and said, it was too late, but I wrote my association executive and said, I want to be involved. They really represent Ann Arbor and a big part of our membership. I want to understand more about them. And so as things happen, I made it on the committee. I'm a committee member. Some people may say the conversations are dry. I find them fascinating. But that next year, I was at our local apartment association again in our state capital, talking to local legislators about our industry. And one of our representatives, actually, that my mom was talking to, had rental properties and didn't want to manage them anymore. Because he said, I'm a political figure now. I just want to separate it. Would you manage them? And we're like, we don't really do that. We help management companies, but we also found that our management companies that we worked with didn't really go after or even really want to work with the small operators, because they didn't really see the cash value or how, it is a little bit difficult. You can't do things on larger scale. And so we decided to do it. We said, okay, we'll pick it up. We picked up a duplex and we managed for the state representative through his term. We ended up purchasing the property from him. And so we became independent rental owners. And this is all happening while I'm on the committee and I'm learning all these tools and resources, but also learning some of the stigmas that are being now put on me, finding out that maybe there aren't tools that are available. There were many software operators and companies that, would say, call me when you hit 100 units. But because you only have 5 properties or, now we have 13, it just became difficult. But through the IRO committee, we were able to connect with a great software company that's our sponsor. We've had great relationships working with them the last few years. And so loved the committee, but then I also was tapped on the shoulder. If you know Stephanie Anderson, she used to work with the National Apartment Association, and she was our liaison for the committee at the time. And I had just finished my leadership lyceum through the National Apartment Association in 2019. And she said, Megan, you should really consider going further in leadership. You've done all the things, you've been on the committee, you've been active. Why don't you consider being chair? And that really wasn't something that had been openly discussed. And so I said, okay. And so I waited in line and worked through the leadership. I served, on the education advisory board. I helped pick sessions for Apartmentalize and did some functions for that for the committee, making sure there was more education for independent rental owners and that they got a bigger seat at the table. And then in 2022, as Matt Hines, past chair, was going through and Kurt Kanabi was coming our chair, they reached out to me and said, hey, do you still want to be the chair? Do you still want to, be a representative, the voice? And I said, I do. I didn't realize that also came with a board position with the National Apartment Association. So I'm kind of learning that as I go, but, fall forward. Why not, right? Why not me? And also, it's been a very big year for the IROs, and why I guess people should maybe take a second look at us is when you look at rental property management as a whole, there are the 10 plus doors and then there's the 10 below doors. And if you were to really cut that and put people in buckets, you'd find that about 30% of our industry is made up with the 10 and higher doors, but 70% of our industry is made up with the 10 and below doors. And so it's a big part of our industry, even though we're considered to be small, pretty mighty. And what we've also found is that the legislators want to talk to us because we are the ones investing in the communities. What the decisions that they make, even though they impact the large operators, they tend to hit us first. You know, when we're seeing 11% increases in taxes and 16% increases in insurance, all of those things really hit us hard. And so, yes, I am an owner myself, but I also represent the few owners that we manage their properties for. And it's been difficult to watch the last few years of them trying to really navigate and get creative. And they've really leaned on us. We've leaned on the committee and on our resources to find that technology and be smart, you know, of where we can be efficient or look at things and come at it from a different angle, and definitely stop the stigma of, you know, that we're not educated or that we're slumlords or that we can't use technology, because we do.
That's awesome. And
Long
Megan,
explanation.
oh my gosh, yeah, yeah, the tax issues is a whole nother episode for sure.
Yeah.
But what I love, Megan, is how you found the inspiration of going through this process where you kind of dabbled in, or you saw these things happening, being a part of your mom's company and kind of blazing your own trail. And you were curious, and you saw something that had a stigma, as you said. The independent rental owners was kind of, the stigma was the slumlords, but you were still curious. You didn't let this stigma, or let this this opinion of this group kind of prevent you from being curious about it. And I love how you just kind of went on this journey with it. You kind of jumped into it, and you found that there really is some great value in being part of this. And you really just jumped into it and got inspired through going through this process. And I love how you talked about failed forward, just figuring it out, jumping on committees. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to get into it and figure it out as we go. And I think that is truly is so inspiring. And Megan, so I want to jump into your second point, what inspires you. And this is cool. And you're speaking my language with this one. Micro education is your jam. I love how you put that. So micro education is your jam. So what does that mean to you, and why does micro education just jam is your jam?
Yeah. So I think, like many people in all parts of our industry, but in real estate management especially, I really hated having my time wasted in training and having, the frustration of, if I needed to go figure out a task in software or a process, I didn't want to watch a 45-minute video to figure out a 30-second task. Or, and I think sometimes we just, as trainers or speakers, we've been taught to add some more fluff or really build it out and hit like this certain time limit. And I've challenged, I'm like, why do we need to have a 45-minute session if we can really get it done in 10 minutes and be respectful of people's time? And so I think leaning into the getting, can I make this as efficient, still impactful, but efficient, and give people back their time. So really looking at education in that regard. We've done some software training and some on-demand education for our clients. So being able to show them how to put a guest card in quickly, that really shouldn't take more than 30 seconds. And so let's not waste any more of their time, and let's really break it down to the very specific task. If it's moving a guest card from a guest card to an applicant, then that's just a short video. Let's keep everything. So our limit is about 10 minutes. I think we did a security of deposit accounting function in one of the software systems, and I think that was our longest video. It was about 10 minutes. But that then caused me to challenge myself in our education for our smart staffers, our leasing and our managers and our maintenance folks, and especially our entry level positions. We pull a lot of people from other industries and bring them into the real estate property management industry. from hospitality, from other service trades, and the way that we teach them our industry is through on-demand education, and then breaking that down into small episodes. So for example, the ABCs of leasing is really multiple different episodes, and they're between 3 and 5 minutes. So we might cover the resident life cycle in one episode. We might cover, online and property curb appeal in an episode. And so breaking it down in that micro education and really making it succinct and efficient, I think that has really been a winning combination for us. It's worked for our clients, but we've really been able to make an impact quickly with our staff. So they've been able to hit the ground running with our clients with very little orientation or education time.
And Megan, that is so cool. I love how you've taken this box of what training or education is supposed to be. I mean, you're like everyone, the assumption is, or the opinion is, training's got to fit in this 45-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour box. And what you did, you're like, you know what? This works better. The attention span of the people we're reaching, the demands on these people that we're reaching is greater. And so we've got to make it fit what they need, not what the training world thinks it should be. And so you started thinking a little differently. You're not normal, Megan, and I love that you've made a switch, and you're like, here's how we're going to do it. And I love how that inspires you, and you're continuously building on that, and you're making a product, training videos, if you will, for the people that will really benefit from that. And I think that's what a great way to kind of attack this problem of training, kind of pull it out of the box and say, hey, there is a better way to do it, a not normal way to do it, and this is working.
Yeah, and it came from our frustration. It came from our needs for our own people. Another thing we looked at, Gary, was looking at how our team was consuming the content, and really just fine tuning that. We found that a lot of people were viewing it on their mobile devices, and so making sure that it was mobile friendly, making sure that they could pause it, they could start it. Most of them were watching it maybe in the trenches, especially on the software side and learning how to use software. And so just trying to put yourself in their position. And I think that's also where Smart Moves, our management company, has come into play, because we're still actively going through these processes. And so we're able to record them quickly and say, this is really the best practice or the best way to tackle this.
That is so good, Megan. I love it. I love everything you've shared with us today. I could talk to you for an hour, and I'm sure there's just so much more we could probably bring up. Taxes is one of them. Woo, that'd be a whole nother episode. But we're at the end of our time. And Megan, before we wrap up, I want to give you a chance to share a closing thought with us.
Oh gosh, just one.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and so I've been talking with a lot of operators lately, and they're concerned about their leasing teams, and I guess the bench strength. That we're going into a softer market, which is going to require them to be salespeople and not order takers. And so I think the best advice that I could give you for 2024 is to work with your sales team, make sure that they've got the resources, spend some time with them. Even if it's not training, maybe that's not it. Is there a barrier that you can remove to make their job easier so that they can keep, the lights on and the engine going?
I love it. I love it. As leaders, we help our teams remove the obstacles so they can do what they're meant to do. So, Megan, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Guys, we're going to make sure you check out Megan on LinkedIn. She's got great information that she shares online. I'm going to put a link to find her on LinkedIn. I'm going to put a link to her company online in the show notes as well. So make sure y'all check it out, explore all the information, and make sure you're following Megan on LinkedIn. Thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of the Super Fantastic Exchange. Y'all go check out Megan, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, everybody.